All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rise Up For You Workplace Solutions podcast. This is season 1 of 2022, and I'm super honored to have Rajeev Kapur with us today. How you doing, Rajeev?
Fantastic, Nada. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Super
Thanks for
excited
having
to
me.
talk with you today about the Great Resignation, which is still happening, which we know started towards the end of last year, coming into 2022. But before we jump in, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are in your own words.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me again. I'm delighted to be here. It's an honor. Who am I? Geez, I'm not a very complicated guy. I'm just a guy I'm currently running a private equity backed B2B media and marketing company, and it's for like the last 7 years. It's been a great ride, and I've got an amazing team who's just every day surprised me with some amazing leadership qualities that they have. And prior to that, I was CEO of a couple of different companies. And prior to that, I was an executive at Dell for a long time. And so kind of been all over the map, primarily a tech geek and nerd. So I'm here in Southern California. It's a little cloudy today,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, it's been great. And recently I became a best-selling author, which I know we'll talk about later. And so
fantastic.
yeah, no, a lot of experience in this space, and we're really excited to talk to you about the topic because we're doing a lot of great things here at the current company I'm running, and we're really excited for being on with you and talking about what others can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, yes, brag about yourself as much as you want because you have a pretty extensive background in executive roles and leadership in some pretty prominent companies. And, I think that leadership is changing rapidly every single day, what it means to be a leader, how to engage personal leadership. So I want to dive into the Great Resignation and how to make the shift so that we don't have employees resigning. And so that we can keep a positive reputation in the workplace. I think there's quite a few individuals that are making the leap into self-employed entrepreneurship, which isn't a bad thing. And the corporate culture is getting a bad rap. And I actually think that both are very necessary. I think many individuals should be in the corporate workplace and others, should do the entrepreneur thing. But I do think that it's getting a bad rap, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on leadership so that we can enhance culture once again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So look, here's the thing now. That look, I mean, what's happening right now is really not all that surprising to me, right? And I think if you look at the numbers, what the numbers tell you is, and Deloitte did a study on this, 80% of CEOs say that culture is really important to them, but only 10% actually do anything about it. So this
Mhm.
is kind of a reckoning that's been coming. But look, all these things tend to go in a little bit of a cycle. Right now, it's a very employee-centric cycle. Who knows what happens in the future? It might become a bit more of an employer-centric cycle. I don't know if it's ever going to swing back to being a full employer-centric cycle, just because there's too many other headwinds that are out there that are really kind of causing the Great Resignation. So first, you understand what's causing the Great Resignation, right? It's various different things, right? You have the pandemic is a big issue. We unfortunately, there's been a lot of people that have passed away from the pandemic. You have obviously an immigration slowdown, people coming into the country. There's not enough jobs, not people to fill some of those entry level jobs. And what's happening then are those people that are doing those entry level jobs are getting promoted up, right? So it's leaving kind of a little bit of a vacuum, right? So you have some of those things. You have childcare policies for women who now have to stay at home because maybe there might be some issues related with childcare with the pandemic and other things. Now that hopefully is going to be loosening up. So it's preventing them from maybe getting back into the workplace as much as they want to see, right? But then, so if you take all these kind of factors and kind of put them all together, it boils down to the fact that what employees really want to see from their employers, what they want to see from their CEOs, is this idea that I kind of coined more of something called enlightened leadership. So we're all familiar with servant leadership, which is, hey, now that I'm here to support you, whatever you need, I'm going to help do whatever I can to make your life at work great, right? But to me, it's more than they want more than that. They want to be able to look at their CEOs because they are the people that they really want to trust. They want to say, look, what can you do to help me outside the walls of the business as well? And that's that concept of enlightened leadership and building upon that. And being able to build on those kinds of things becomes really important. So, for example, I think work and culture needs to shift. Work is going to start to shift to become anytime, anywhere, any place. I have a lot of my employees. I have employees recently a couple of employees that just from California moved to Florida. I have one employee that went to Oklahoma not too long ago. I have an employee that went to Arizona. So but they're finding that they can get their job done. And I'm finding out that we've had 2 amazing years in a row, even in the middle of COVID. And the job's getting done. We're a vassal. We become much more of a remote based company. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could see my employees more often, but they're loving it, and I'm supporting them. And to be a great CEO and to be a leader, to understand what's happening now, you have to be really flexible.
What would you say, because I hear what you're saying, and I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit because I think that,
Sure.
that helps. So where is the line of, shifting this culture to enlightened leadership, which, I'm on board. I understand the flexibility, the adaptability when it comes to leaders, and then too much entitlement from the employee, for example. So now, there's gas that they want to be compensated for. There's jobs that really do require you to be in office, maybe manufacturing, it's hands-on. And that's starting to see a lack of employees, right? They're finding different industries where they can stay at home. So, I mean, where is that line of, yes, being enlightened and creating flexibility, but at the same time, there are still multiple industries and things that do have to get done where employees do have to be on site, they do have to be in the trenches, they do have to be hands-on.
Yeah, it's a great question, but here's the thing: I don't know why there has to be a line, anyways. Right? There should never be kind of a line, right? Or why do we have to be so? Why do we have to be so dramatic and call it a line? I mean, here's the thing, right? I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago for the oil and gas industry.
Yeah.
One of their biggest challenges is they're losing oil workers.
Right.
Like the average length of an oil worker is maybe just 2 years. They're like, how can we extend that? Because they can't find enough workers to fill it, right? And so they now have to think about other things that they can do to help kind of extend that. And that's not a bad thing, because remember, here's the thing. Right now, turnover before the pandemic, before this whole great resignation thing happened, turnover was over $30 billion a year costing American companies. That's tripled now, right? But you lose so much people in terms of productivity. You lose so much people in terms of brain drain that leaves the company. So why not do things to try to help retain those employees? And if it just means that, hey, and by the way, the gas thing, I've read about that. We let people, every company I've ever been with and every company I know, let's employees compensate, expense gas or miles rather. They expense their miles, right, when they go on business trips. But what's happening now, if they're working from home, what can you do to maybe help support their cell phone bill? Because you know what, they are using their cell phone for work. What are you doing to maybe help them with their Wi-Fi a little bit, little things like that? But because you know what, if they're doing that, you're not spending that money on square footage, at an office building, right? So you're going to be off better ahead. And if you can find a way to retain those employees, you're going to be much better. Sure, it might cost you a few extra dollars, but guess what? You're going to save so much more money other ways down the road, and also in present day. Like if I look at myself, right? Before the pandemic hit, we were in about 70,000 square foot of office space. No, nada. We're down to like 12,000 square feet of office space. And we save so much money. We can take that money and reinvest it back in the teams. I can reinvest that money back into resources and tools that they might need. I can take that money and reinvest it back into training. It's maybe hiring some other places where maybe there was a bottleneck or maybe some issues that were causing some resource challenges. So it's all about how you have your dollar and how you can spend it properly and wisely and really take it to really build that culture. I'm not saying you need to literally go kiss people's what all the time, but you need to be able to say, look, we're going to do everything we can to create a great workplace for you because I value you. Does that mean every employee is going to be a home run? No. Do some employees eventually have to leave and you do have to let some people go? Sure. But a lot of times you can have some addition by subtraction. Like if you look at my organization, in the last, I'd say 7-8 months, we've had 5 people resign. We had 3 people boomerang back in. So net, we're down only 2 people. Our turnover rate, our voluntary turnover rate right now is less than 3% in the middle of everything going on. I have over 2/3 of my employees have been with the company over 10 years. So, and the reason why is because I spend so much time thinking, how can I do everything I can to improve the culture? Now, the culture isn't just free coffee and donuts. Culture starts everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Do they have the right tools to do their job? Do they have the right resources to do their job? Do they have the flexibility to do their job? Do we give them the ability to make mistakes? Because they're going to make mistakes without them feeling threatened or feeling like they're going to get fired, right? It's all those kinds of things. And I think all those types of things matter. Do we look at the benefits plan? Sure. How can we improve the benefit? Recently, I lost my father-in-law And I looked at our bereavement policy. Our bereavement policy was only 3 days. And I was watching what my wife was doing. There's no way anybody can do anything in 3 days. So I went back, told HR, we got to change this. We changed it to 7 days. And so, but it's small little things like that matter. We changed our 401k match. We started offering, Roth options. The beauty here is that you don't have to have big home runs to change cultures. Small little things monthly, small little things quarterly all add up. So you don't have to all of a sudden go turn into Apple or Google or Silicon Valley here. Just be yourself and just believe in your team and you'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think that there's a big misconception between cosmetic culture, right, and actual company culture. And I talk about this a lot as well, that, individuals think they need to invest in, like you said, bagels, right, Taco Tuesday and that kind of stuff for their employees. But coaching, mentorship, development, sitting down, having one-to-one conversations also makes a really huge impact on culture and motivation and positivity amongst the team. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It does. I mean, if you do employee exit surveys, and we do one whenever people leave, and knock on wood, we haven't had too many people leaving, thank God. But when we do them, we mine through them. What are some of the big feedbacks? Maybe they didn't feel like they had enough communication from their boss. Whatever the case might be. A lot of times when people leave, they're not leaving the company; they're leaving the boss, right? Yeah. So it's how can you just become a better leader? It's those kinds of things, and it's going to be more important now. Not if you look at the numbers, right? Over the next 3 years, the majority of the workforce is going to be Gen Z and millennial, and in that group, it's going to be women.
Yeah.
Right. And so they require a different type of leadership. They want and I realize that not everybody's going to agree with me on this. And I remember I just said majority. I didn't say everyone. So what they want to see, what they're looking for from their companies and their leaders is a focus on what I call the Jedi. They want to understand, they want to make sure that their companies are there to support what's happening in the world from a justice perspective, environment perspective, diversity and inclusion perspective. Right. So that's what they want to make sure that that's there as well. They want to get paid well and they want to have all those things, but they want to be able to, they want that flexibility. And why they want that flexibility? You said it earlier. It's because all these Gen Z kids, they've all been growing up in a world where they think they could all do a side hustle. They all want to be entrepreneurs. And that's because of social media. Right. So they want to be able to have their job and they want to be able to go home in the evenings or at lunch breaks, whatever the case might be, and do other little things on the side to help supplement their income. And the reason why is because they don't think they can afford housing. The reason why is they don't know if they can afford to have more than maybe one kid or maybe even two kids or whatever the case might be. Right. So they feel like they have to make extra money on the side. They have to do other things to support that. So that's why, that's why this workforce is looking to jump and try different things and try new things and looking for that flexibility. And so it's really important that we as leaders, if we want to keep our companies growing and if we want to make sure that we help minimize that turnover, we got to really focus on that culture and allow people to have that flexibility. And this is just not me talking. I recently spent time with Jeff Garrett. He's the new dean at the USC Business School, and I'm a USC grad and over here in LA. And Jeff is the guy that built Wharton.
Yeah.
And he and I were talking about this and this idea of enlightened leadership. And his comment to me was pretty enlightening. He just said, it just is. It just is happening. And there's nothing that you can do to stop it. I can do to stop it. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, doesn't matter who you are. This is happening. It's a natural evolution of the workforce. Just like how we had a natural evolution of the workforce back in the 80s and 90s, that's the natural evolution here, and we have to be prepared for it.
Yeah, and I think that you're right in that leaders need to think more critically and creatively around how they can continue to boost the organization and the productivity without losing its people, right? Whether that means that they're sitting down and they're brainstorming for a week or whatever it is, or continuing to roll with the time. But I do agree with you. I mean, I'm a millennial myself. I do agree with you that it's changing and people want purpose. They want something different in the workplace. But I do think it is finding that balance, right? And I know that there's many organizations that struggle with finding a way to keep their employees happy without losing the business itself, right? So it is a challenge that leadership teams need to continue to work through. Rajeev, thanks for your time today. I want to jump into the power section of the interview and just ask some rapid fire questions. So if you could leave the world, I like to say, with one golden nugget, what would your final golden nugget be?
That's a great question. And so look, the one thing this world needs right now, probably more than anything, is kindness and compassion. Mm-hmm. We really need that. It's not just, employees need it. people outside the walls of our business need it. If you think about what's happened over the last 20 years in our society, and you think what's happened for millennials in particular, they've gone through the dot-com bubble burst, they've gone through 9/11, 2007 and 2008 financial crisis, pandemic now. They've gone through a lot. That we need to understand that we have to lead with compassion and be kind, and we need to do that for each other. It's not about politics, it's not about craziness on social media. If we just take a step back, take a deep breath, and learn how to be more kind and be compassionate with each other, the workplace and the world will be a much better place.
And what would you say is one value that's a non-negotiable for you?
To me, the one value that is non-negotiable to me is one of respect and gratitude.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. I have told my leadership team we are focused on our internal customer first, and that's our employees. And we're going to build a respect and gratitude based organization. If you talk to Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, he's been there now 8 years, I think. He'll tell you the number one thing that turned Microsoft around was gratitude.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that. And I have two more questions for you. But before we jump into the last one, when you hear the phrase rise up for you, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think that what we've been talking about, right? It's this, to me, enlightened leadership is essentially rising up for you, right? How can I, as a CEO, how can I, as a leader, rise up for you? How can I help make not just your workplace better for you? How can I make the world outside the workplace better for you? That to me is what rising up is, right? I'm a big Kobe Bryant fan. To me, that you gotta have that Mamba mentality, and that's what that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Person's the professional is the person, right? Everything that exists outside is impacting when we come to work. Thank you, Rajeev, for your time today. My final question for you is about you. So, how do we learn more about you? Tell us about your book, brag even more so that we can connect with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, look, if there's anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, they're welcome to connect with on LinkedIn. And thank you for asking about the book. Back in November, I released my book. It's right here. There it is. Chase Greatness, right there.
Awesome.
You can see it
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
Yep, right there.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, whatever. It's been great. It was the most downloaded leadership book on Amazon in November and December, and it's still getting high marks. And it's making great inroads with, I'm a member of a group called YPO, so it's making great inroads with YPO leaders, EO leaders, people in Vistage, kind of all over the world. And I'm doing a talk with somebody in India tomorrow night. So it's it's about the book. So it's really there, and it's really about this idea of how enlightened leadership and how we as CEOs and leaders need to change. So it's really exciting to see. But please, if you're out there in the audience and you want to connect, please just connect with me on LinkedIn. Rajeev Kapur, Kapur. It's right there on the screen. So feel free to reach out and connect with me.
Fantastic. Rajeev, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here at the Rise Up For You Workplace Solutions podcast. Again, this is season 1 of 2022. We have many more fantastic guests that are going to be joining us. So thanks for joining. And thank you again, Rajeev.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.